So last week on the show, actually for a while now, we've been trying to sound the alarm about the Islamification of this country. Texas also in particular, but this country that is taking place. This is a big plan, this big master plan for Muslims to infiltrate and take over the country. By the way, that's not me saying it, it's them. If you have not seen that episode yet, go over and give it a watch. But part of what we talked about in that episode is how they are trying to take over our politics. And in their words, again, go and watch it. In their words, they want to use the tax-deductible mosques to build the voter bloc. They want to use their CARE C4. This was the CARE executive director saying they want to use the C4 of their organization to lobby, draft, and fight laws. They want to use their PACs to fund candidates. And they want to use super PACs for unlimited money to flip races. Now, there are not a lot of people who will actually stand up and call out corrupt organizations like CARE and call out what is actually happening right before our very eyes for fear of being called an Islamophobe. Oh no, a mean name. I guess I'll just stand by and watch my civilization be completely destroyed. So when it comes to CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, they of course have reported terrorist ties to organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood, also Hamas, and Representative Chip Roy has introduced a bill to strip tax-exempt status from charities, nonprofits, with terror ties. Joining me now is Representative Roy, also, by the way, running for Attorney General of Texas. Representative, thank you so much for joining me. I guess I want to talk about but there's several things I want to talk about on this topic with you. But I guess I will start with, why is it that there's only a handful of you in Congress who are willing to stand up and talk about this type of thing that's happening right before our very eyes?
Yes, Sarah, great to be on first. Thank you. Second of all, I would say there's two reasons. One is maybe more cynical than the other. I think if I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, I think there's a lot of folks who don't realize or haven't realized until lately how bad it truly is. I gave a speech on the House floor about, 18 months ago, which was a buildup of stuff that I'd been thinking about and looking into and talking to folks for, years, frankly. And I finally just gave a speech about how bad it is in London, how bad it is in Paris, that it's coming to the United States. It's not just Dearborn, it's not just Minneapolis, it's Texas, et cetera. And I'm going to tell you, we'll get to CARE in a minute and the C3 status, but they were deluging my office with phone calls. They were, harassing my staff and basically trying to target us, which is what they're going to do. And you know it. And I think that gets to my second point. I think some members of Congress they don't want that hassle. They don't want that headache. It's a lot easier for them just to, go introduce some bills and do their voting and go do their regular dinners and things. And they don't want to go rock the boat. But look, the last point I'll make is, and I think it's actually important, what's happened with Mamdani isn't the canary in the coal mine. It's the four-alarm fire that's currently raging right here, right now. And you know it, and I know it, Dallas-Fort Worth area with Epic. But it's not just Epic. Like, we're getting caught in that. That's kind of a shiny object. It's bad, but there's this massive Islamic center in Houston. There's 300 mosques throughout the state of Texas. There's more mosques being built in Texas every day than any other state in the union. So this is purposeful, and that's the last point. There are organizations deeply funded, widely funded, with ties back to Middle East funding, but also radical Marxists, because that's what people don't understand. This is the combination element of Marxism and Islamism, and it is purposeful, and they're targeting the United States of America specifically to take us over.
Yeah, the Red Green Alliance. This is the Red Green Alliance. It's like this awful spinoff that nobody ever asked for from the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Like, we did not want this. Why do we now see another tactical, coming together of the progressive radical left and, of course, Islam because they have one common goal, which is, of course, to destroy Western civilization. It's very frustrating to watch them come together and do this. And you still have, it's 2025, and you are having to introduce this bill that this has been able to go on for so long. It's just, it's insane to me. It's so absurd that this has not already been addressed. But I'm thankful, I'm grateful that you're doing it. So for people who I try to talk about it, I feel like sometimes people think I'm being hyperbolic. I'm told I'm a little dramatic at times. I don't know. But coming from you, tell people, what kinds of activities with regard to CARE, what kinds of activities have they been involved in? Like, what are they doing that this would, of course, stop?
Well, you know it, and your listeners are actually quite educated, so they know it too, to a certain degree. But I mean, look, what we've got is an organization who, for example, one of their leaders was out bragging on and praising the October 7th attacks, which again involved Americans and it involved clear terrorist hits on our allies. And then number two, you've got individuals at CARE who are or at least an individual who is an unindicted co-conspirator from the Holy Land Foundation case right there in DFW, which goes back, 10 or 15 years, and was an early precursor, by the way. That was the canary in the coal mine. And frankly, we didn't take heed as much as we should. We viewed it, and I will admit, I viewed it as kind of a little bit of a one-off case. Oh, thank gosh, we got in there and we were investigating that. But I didn't really think about it early enough as the assault on our way of life that it really represents. And I started studying this over time. And you talk about about the bill that I introduced last week to strip the C3 status. I've talked about this for a while. I've got dozens of bills that I talk about that I think would be a good idea. But, you kind of don't think, oh, well, I'll get to that. Or it's kind of, well, shouldn't we be doing that anyway? And then I realized it was like, well, we need to do it. Like, go file the bill and go make the case. By the way, that's the same strategy I took with the designating cartels as terrorist organizations, which I did 5 years ago, or getting us out of WHO, or getting us out of UNRWA, or getting us out of the United Nations. I'm the author of all of those bills in the House because these are all things that are undermining an America First agenda and undermining our national security and sovereignty.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And again, let me go back to CARE, and then I do want to talk to you about Epic City while I have you. With regard to CARE and the executive director, I mean, he gave this big, huge speech that we played on my show yesterday where he said, I mean, they're playing the long game. By the year 2050, he's like, by the year 2050, we'll have 100,000 journalists. We'll have 100,000 filmmakers. We'll have 100,000 lawyers. We'll have 100,000, political candidates. And you see them playing the long game. And so it's like, guys, if there are not a ton of Chip Roys in Congress, and instead they are replaced by a Muslim super PAC who are going to advocate for God knows what, we're in big trouble. And that is why we need to address this right freaking now. I'm so glad that you are one of the few who is addressing it. So on the topic of Epic City, just while I have you, you mentioned it. It is, of course, for those who, if it's your first time watching, welcome. By the way, Epic City is being built here outside of, it's in DFW. It's outside of a little sleepy town called Josephine. They sometimes pick these little sleepy towns where no one's paying attention to what's going on and buy up all this land and then build these Muslim, all-inclusive compounds. But they don't say, they're not like, hey, only Muslims are welcome. So they try to skirt around these discrimination laws. As Attorney General, if you win the Attorney General race, Chip, what are you going to do about this compound? Because I realize that you have to operate within the confines of the law. But this is a real danger. And by the way, for those who are listening, it just came out from the Collin County Judge Chris Hill that they are now quietly renaming the Epic City the Meadow. Yeah. Right. So it's the same people. They just think we're just going to rebrand and people aren't going to look into it. Well, it's the same thing, the same crappy thing, just with a different name. How will you respond to Epic City Meadow, whatever you want to call it, if you win as AG?
Yeah, well, first of all, in no particular order, I would do and extend on the good work that Attorney General Paxton is doing. And for example, you pursue things like securities violations, right? They're looking into that. Or you look into Deceptive Trade Practices Act, or there's myriad statutes that we look into. And if we either have original jurisdiction, do something with it, or if we don't, make the case, demonstrate that it exists, and then go to the local district attorneys and say that you need to deal with that. So that's one thing. Just, go dive deeply into current law and find every way in which you can say, wait a second, guys, this is not the way to do it. Number two, you got to use the bully pulpit, and you got to use it loudly. You got to be willing to go there. You got to be willing to call it out. You got to be willing to shout it from the mountaintops for the entire state. But you also have to be able to go fight, and I'll say this is the third point, the core constitutional questions that we've got to flush out. And by that, I mean, look, I'm the chairman of the subcommittee on the Constitution on the House Judiciary Committee. I'm pretty well versed on these things.
You are.
But we've got to go dive deeply into it so that people aren't hiding behind the First Amendment.
Yes.
Because Sharia law is inconsistent with the First Amendment. And you've got to have people who are willing to say it, be willing to call it out, and then be willing to litigate over it or back up litigation if other people are doing it, right? It depends on who has standing. So you got to go work all that out. But those are all the things that you would do and more. But I do think the bully pulpit point and the being willing to talk about it is really important. Because the last thing I'll say is, I said it before, the Epic City thing is a huge problem, but again, it's a little bit shiny. Again, there's the Islamic Center in Houston. There's all of these different communities. Got to go look at how people are buying up land. And I'll say one other thing. There's another issue that we need to deal with, which is the corporatification of Texas. That is big corporations, they come in, they buy up lands. We've complained about the Chi-Coms. By the way, that was another bill that I introduced. I was the first to introduce a bill to ban the Chinese Communist Party from buying American land. We should expand that. Really, honestly, why do non-American citizens buy our land? Why do these big corporations come in and buy up our ranches and our cattle and our meat packing plants? Why do they get to tell us how to live? Why does a private equity shop now own Whataburger? Like, you can joke about it, but it's frustrating. Yeah. And this is Texas, and we should make sure that we own Texas, not a bunch of folks in the Middle East that are coming in and offering their money to universities, and then they buy up a 10,000 acre ranch and they start building Muslim centers. We should fight that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I appreciate you, Representative. Can you tell everyone if they want to learn more about your campaign, if they want to help, if they want to donate, where should they go?
Sure, chiproy.com, chiproy.com, or chiproytx on X/Twitter. Great to be on. Look, this is a huge fight. I'm actually going back to D.C. tomorrow because we got to go move the bill that hopefully the Senate's going to move tonight or tomorrow. And get busy, moving an agenda now that we've been kind of out for a few weeks. But we'll be campaigning hard virtually when I'm up in D.C. and continuing to hit the road around Texas over the next few months.
Great. I appreciate it. Yeah, I know. I was going to ask, are you excited to actually get back to work? You've had a 40-day vacation. So, geez, get a job, Chip.
Yeah, well, some of us have been working hard during that stretch. By the way, I do think the president deserves a great deal of credit and what the leadership has been doing to lean into this fight. We should go on offense on healthcare. The Democrats have given away the game, right? They've outed themselves by virtue of their crying foul over these subsidies, which is the only way that they can make their Obamacare thing even halfway work while they enrich insurance companies. But that's a different topic for a different day. But
yeah, no, and I appreciate it. I will never forget when it was like a light bulb moment for me when you were on my show when the government shutdown first started, and you're like, it's not about the subsidies for the people. This is about lining the pocketbooks of all of these insurance companies. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. We can't let that happen. So I'm really glad that everyone on our side held strong, and I'm really grateful for the president's leadership, and I'm grateful for you, sir. I appreciate you so much.
Well, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate that. And I look forward to go back to D.C. to answer your question. And look, again, the president's leading. We got to deliver. We got a year left. We got to deliver to guarantee a midterm victory so that we get the full force of his 4 years.
Amen. Amen. Your lips to God's ears. Thank you, sir. We'll talk soon. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.